Okay, we will continue the program. Our next guest speaker is Janne Vasama, and he's presenting the Helsinki Electric Aviation Association and telling us how it's going with the association. So, thank you, Janne.
All right. Thank you, thank you. Okay. Yes, so my name is Janne Vasama. I'm from Helsinki Electronics Aviation Association, and I'm here to tell you the good news. Flying is good, flying is not bad. All right. How is this working? No. Oh, yeah. So, electric flying. Why should we go electric in flying? First of all, because that is going to be most ecological way of traveling in the future. So flying is good. Why it's ecological? First of all, always when we fly, we go directly. So it's a shorter way to fly than go any land transportation. Even in Europe we still do this, but maybe in the future we can fly direct in Europe too. Most harmful emission what we get from transportation nowadays is these small particles. And for example, electronic cars, we get these particles from the wheels and from the brakes. And actually the modern cars nowadays, you get less these particles from engines than you get from wheels and brakes. So flying electronics, there is zero small particle emission. And very small need of infra. If we look traveling as a whole, we should calculate the infra too. And in ground transportation, rails and roads, and we need to build the infra, we need to maintain the infra, so that causes emissions. And if we look not using of natural resources, here we have these picture from Suomen Kuvalehti, where is usage of natural resources as a 1 kilometer travel with a different ways of traveling. And by the way, these are in Finnish. The first one is car, then train, domestic flight, bicycle, tram, bus, metro, boat, European flight, and the long flight. This using of natural resources don't include CO2 or the harmful emissions. It's just usage of natural resources, and this comes from the big infra what you need to build for trains and cars and so on. And by the way, these are for traditional airplanes. If you go electronics, this is even smaller. So flying is good, not bad. Again, still, why go to electronics or electric flying? It's cheap. As most of here we probably know, two biggest costs of operating a plane is petrol and the service of the engines. Both of those costs is about 1/10 in electric plane comparing to traditional planes. It is also socially cheap because, again, the infra. Ground transport infra, trains and roads are paid with taxpayers' money. But airport infra, in Finland it's mostly paid by the airport users. So Finavia is taking care of the 21 airports, and Finavia actually doing profit, so they're even paying sometimes to government to operate those. And when you buy a flying ticket, you are not just buying the trip. You're also paying the cost of the airport You're paying all the services what the company is using for the whatever weather services, the traffic control services and things like that. When you are buying a train ticket, you are not paying the infra. If you would have the infra cost in your train ticket, you probably wouldn't pay it. And of course, flying is fast. Yes, it's a short away and airplanes goes fast. And the speeds what airplanes are doing, it would be very, very difficult to do on ground. And if you would do those on ground, you would actually use more energy that you use when you're flying. Actually, after some speed, the most efficient way of traveling is by air. And here we have a picture which is actually from Uber study. And there is, we can see, this is, I think it's miles per gallon by car or by eVTOL aircraft. And eVTOL is vertical takeoff or landing. So if we would put fixed wing aircraft here, it's even doing better. But we can see that after 85 miles or so, it starts to be more efficiency to fly than go on ground. So flying is good. All right. So how are the first generation planes? And when we will have those? That's the question I get very often. So the first one here, the upper picture, it's hard aerospace airplane. That's a 19 passenger seat plane. It should be certified in 25. The very strange looking plane there, you're right, it's called Alice. It will be introduced next month in Paris Air Show, and it will fly its maiden flight in this year. The company is trying to get it certified in 21, and its range is 1,000 kilometers. Fully electric plane, 1,000 kilometers. Traveling speed some 450 kilometers per hour. And the upper one, that range is about 400 kilometers. Also fully electric. Then the plane looking like a jet plane, that's a Junnum area, that's hybrid one. Its range with electric only is about 200 kilometers, with total range around 1,000 kilometers. That's 12-seat plane. And then we see this seaplane there, that's Harbour Air seaplane. They just decide to change or retrofit all their current planes to electric. They're the world's largest operator of seaplanes. And we should see first flights of those in next year. It will be much faster to get it certified. As the plane is already certified, you just certify the power line. And then this picture we can see length of the flight. This is US statistics. So there is turboprops, regional jets, narrow body jets, and wide body jets. And we can see that number of flights, most of them are under 500 nautical miles. 500 nautical miles is 900 kilometers. And all those flights actually will be possible to fly in electric flights in future. First these small ones, then in 30s we will have these bigger ones. So there is big market there, and it will be growing after these electric planes will be here. And these electric plane manufacturers says that operating of electric plane, the cost saving is 70%. 70%. So we have a very good business case here. If you are operator flying those flights and you get an airplane which is 70% cheaper to operate, makes sense. Maybe Finnair also starts to fly with smaller airplanes, so maybe we could have again a very better coverage in Finland. All right. So what could we do in Finland? There is a lot of discussion about this 1 hour train to Tampere and Turku. To get those 1 hour trains, which actually is 75 minutes, cost about 8 billion euros. 8 billion euros. So why don't we have a half an hour electric-like connection between those cities? And when we start with these small planes, we can, for example, fly those non-stop after half an hour or 20 minutes, depending on the traffic. And the investment cost for government is basically zero, except that they need to have a city airport in Helsinki, because hub airports, it just doesn't work, because you spend 2 hours in hub and then half hour flight, it's just not practical. So this, I believe, will change the way of people are traveling, this electric flying, in a big way. And for example, in here in Helsinki, we could have 1 hour flight from more than 30 airports. And as we heard, Finnair is only operating 21 airports, but we have about 80 airports in Finland, and most of them could be used also for these electric aircrafts, as they only need very short airfield to operate. And also with these small planes, we could also have a cross-country flights again between. Nowadays, if you want to go, for example, from Kuopio to Vaasa, if you go by air, you go first in Helsinki and then back up to Vaasa. For example, for train, you need to go somewhere in Tampere and then up to Vaasa. But with this small plane, you could do it less than an hour directly to between cities. Okay. This is not really to do with electric flying, but I couldn't help to show it. This is uses of regional airports in Nordic countries, and you can see Finland is not doing very great here. Even Danes are using more regional airports than we are using. And if you look the growth figures there with the red ring, it shows that we haven't been doing very well. But I hope that with this electric flying we can do better with this, because this, as we heard, is very important to tourism industry. And if we want to get these people flying from Europe to Japan to stop here for a couple of days, go to see Finland, we need to have this good domestic coverage. And with these electric airplanes, we could do it in good price. All right, then we go a little bit different area. How we are doing with time? Couple minutes. This is also something that will change how people will be traveling in the future. So these are these eVTOL aircrafts, which has about 120 projects at the moment in the world. This is from the Uber vision of how this will be working. Uber will start this operation in 23 in 2 cities. And in last year, Uber had more passengers in US than all US taxi companies together. So Uber has a lot of this data, how people have been traveling in different cities. And for example, this picture, which is, it's from Dallas. If you only have 10 ports in the city, you can do 47% of all the trips what people have been doing with taxi cars. So you can have a very good coverage, and you don't need so many these ports. There are also really different kind of visions of how this will be working. This strange-looking aircraft on your right, it's Lilium Jet. Lilium Jet was speaking in Helsinki in Audi in the spring when we had this electric aviation seminar there. And they had this example, if you look here, from London Gatwick to London Heathrow. And first distance by air, 40 kilometers, by car, 61 kilometers. Time, 8 minutes, comparing to 1 hour, or if there's traffic, it's more than 1 hour. Price, 40 euros or 75 euros. And this includes the cost of pilot. So this is 5-seater plane, and we'll be starting with piloted. All of these will eventually be autonomous. It's much more easier to do autonomous aircraft than autonomous car. So easy case to think, what would you use? Oops. Okay, then we have this big, strange-looking helicopter. That aircraft is actually flying this summer in Helsinki. So we will see it flying. And then up there's a Chinese one, which is a 1-seater, which from day one it will be autonomous aircraft. But I think I've used my time, so I will stop here. Thank you, and here's my email address. So please feel free to email me if you have any questions or any comments or anything.
Okay, there we go. Thank you, Janne. I think we can fit one question. Does anyone have one question? Because I do. I'm going to have many more questions later this day. Well, you make a strong argument for the benefits of the electric flying, but what will you say the single biggest challenge? Why isn't it happening yet in the volume that it could be happening?
It haven't been happening yet because we haven't had the technology yet. So the technology is now we are getting in the point what we can do the electric aviation, and so it's gaming, and we have seen the clear reasons. It's so much cheaper, and it doesn't pollute. It's the best way of traveling in the future, so I believe it will happen in big way after they start to get these certified, after they start these operators operating these planes.
All right, thank you.
No problems, thank you.